As the saying goes, you should never judge a book by its cover. Well, unless the book is about book covers, but I digress. Now, this old piece of wisdom aims to remind us all that looks can indeed be deceiving, and that we should never just assume we know what a person is going through simply by how they present themselves. However, in video games, the concept can be taken a little further, because the characters on this list were laughed at, derided, and chastised by the player base right up until they absolutely kicked our asses. So let's learn a lesson today, my friends, as I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 video game characters you didn't take seriously until they killed you. Number 10, Tinker Knight, Shovel Knight. Unlike the rest of the Order of No Quarter, which is Shovel Knight's villainous trope of erratic champions intent on conquering the valley in the name of the Enchantress, Tinker Knight isn't one for rushing into battle and hitting things in the face with swords. No, instead, he wages war from his workshop, ingeniously crafting an automated army to stop foes before they can even get close. Smashing the cogs of his machines to bits, when you finally come face to face with Tinker Knight, you might be excused for thinking that he was going to be a pushover, especially when a few whacks with the shovel seem to do him in. But just as you think this is all done and dusted, Tinker Knight re-emerges in a mecha to end all mechas, replete with the standard comically oversized drill. Don't you love to see it? This definitely throws a spanner in the works and is likely to be the cause of many players' demise. Number 9, Brock, Pokémon Yellow. Pokémon Red and Blue's first gym leader, Brock, is called Brock because he likes to use a big rock, and it's for that reason that for 2/3 of Kanto's original generation of budding trainers, he's a complete pushover. In both versions, the Pewter City Gym's Pokémon are drastically exposed by grass and water starters Bulbasaur and Squirtle, making it surprisingly easy to fold over this boulder. But in the anime-inspired Pokémon Yellow, however, it's a different story, because the tardy player, having overslept Professor Oak's induction, is now lumped with a Pikachu as a starter, which is, as we all know, an electric type, and therefore they're placed at an instant, unexperienced disadvantage. No longer is Brock a croc, but legitimately lives up to his name in toughness. And unlike the cartoon, there are no sprinklers for stupid Ash to cheat his way to victory with here, and instead, the very first boss demands actual tactics to overcome. Stone cold. Number 8, IZUMI, SHENMUE 2. IZUMI, a Japanese foreign exchange student working as a shop clerk in Hong Kong's Golden Quarter, is one of the many women in SHENMUE whose flirtatious interests of our hero are just painfully ignored. It doesn't matter how many times that she suggests the pair, both strangers in a foreign land, meet up to go study, go shopping, or just have some thinly veiled excuse to encourage some awkward heavy petting, he's having none of it. In fact, the only time that he seems interested in spending time with her is to practice martial arts. That's probably why, clearly frustrated with the constant rebuffs, she holds absolutely nothing back in kicking his ass after emerging as the secret master of Pine Arcade's Fight Club. Not only is she a whirling dervish of fists and fury, but she invokes attacks that can only be blocked by passing QTEs that even a concert pianist would struggle with. And these are made even more difficult, actually impossible on the HD ports because they are displayed incorrectly. Brilliant. Number 7, ANTLION MECHA, Sonic 2 Master System. While Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is panned by critics for being easier than a binary Sudoku, its pared-down smaller screen sibling on the Game Gear was anything but a jog in the park. Now in the Mega Drive games, a forgiving fountain of rings cascades out of the Hedgehog every time he gets damaged. However, due to hardware limitations on the smaller device, that wasn't possible for this version of the game. Instead, once you lost a ring, that was it, donezo, meaning that the boss battles suddenly became an absolute chore. And the spiny speedster's first difficulty spike comes in the very first level. Unless you know what precise pixel on which to stand, the bouncing bombs of Underground Zone's end baddie ANTLION MECHA will make salami out of Sonic. God, there's nothing more humbling than a level 1 game over. Number 6, CACTUAR, Final Fantasy series. When you look at the lowly Cactuar, you probably laugh at how cute it is with those little 2 frames of animation and that cutesy little face, and you likely won't even get a chance to fight him because he'll up and run as soon as possible. Therefore, you will likely come to associate Cactuars with just being an adorable little creature that won't put up much of a fight should you actually able to be quick enough to land a hit. But you know what? You're wrong! Oh my lord, you are so wrong. For if you manage to attempt to chop this cactus in half, you'll be met with that slow turn, that wind up, and it unleashing 1,000 needles right in your face. Which is enough to instantly kill most party members when you first encounter them at lower levels. Things get even worse when Papa Prickles here, or Jumbo Cactuar as he's known in Final Fantasy VIII, shows up and delivers a devastating 10,000 needles to one member of your party. So the next time you see one, maybe it's you that should do the running. Number 5. REDRUM XENOGEARS. In the late 90s, Square released a couple of PlayStation RPGs with big hair, big robots, and big blasphemous themes in abundance. Now, one of these is XENOGEARS, or XENOGEARS depending on how you want to pronounce it, which is an oft-forgotten classic released just a year after Final Fantasy VIII. Though the game does have a cult following, there's been nowhere near the same fervour for an unnecessary remake over the last 2 decades. This could be entirely down to the fact that it falls off a bloody cliff in Disc 2, and things definitely weren't helped by a boss so challenging that many players simply gave up when fighting it on Disc 3. I'm speaking, of course, about REDRUM. The game's hero, Faye, encounters this clawed menace in the Kislev sewers during an escape from the slammer following a wrongful murder arrest. Now, coming after 2 Goliath bosses taking place in the game's eponymous gears, which are basically souped-up giant mechas, it's fair to assume that REDRUM, who is fought on foot, will be relatively trouble-free. Not in the slightest, because not only does he have more HP than both these massive robots combined, but he can easily wipe the party in one hit if not sufficiently leveled. I mean, the clue is kind of in the name, folks. Number 4. ZOTE, Hollow Knight. Throughout Hollow Knight, you'll frequently stumble upon the hapless, air quotes, hero ZOTE the Mighty, who is usually found in a bind after his latest misguided adventure. Though he'd perish otherwise, ZOTE, deluded by his hubris, does not appreciate any assistance and even declares the knight his rival. But save him from certain death, and ZOTE will even turn up as the last boss in the Colosseum's Trial of the Warrior. As you might expect though, he's no match for Hollow Knight's hero, literally stumbling through the fight without posing any threat whatsoever. However, ZOTE's true strength isn't through the tangible, but in what people perceive about him. Because he believes words have power, he named his nail Life Ender, and in reality it's actually made out of shell wood and utterly useless, but those who believe him don't know that, and therefore fear it. As such, when you enter one of his followers' dreams, they showcase an idealized fantasy of ZOTE who will absolutely kick your ass time and time again. He's one of the hardest bosses in the game, given life by the bluster of his much less effective self. Number 3. YAMI, OKAMI. Those who played through Earthworm Jim would have been laughing their stockings off when the true form of YAMI, OKAMI's ultimate baddie, was finally revealed. This great Oni which threatened to spread eternal darkness all across Nippon turns out to be a fish in a bowl. This is identical to Bob, the last boss in Earthworm Jim, who our hero promptly eats, so surely Amaterasu can just scoff up her fish supper in the same way, right? Well, it's not that simple. YAMI, unlike Bob, also comes with an impervious metal exoskeleton, which fortunately does happen to be weak to various combinations of Amaterasu's celestial brush techniques, but it does make it a damn sight more demonic, though it is still hard not to howl with laughter the first time a little goldfish pathetically rolls out of the suit of armor. Still though, it kicked her ass a few times, don't deny it. Number 2. WIZPIG, Diddy Kong Racing. Now there's no questioning WIZPIG's credentials, but equally there's no denying that he's literally just a massive pig in a cape. Now pigs traditionally are not famed for their rapidity on 4 feet, let alone 2, making this porky sprinter something of a laughable opponent for a go-kart racer. However, you won't be laughing when this swine cheats at the start of the race, and he runs this course almost perfectly. If you're not hitting every boost pad, then this large lad will leave you in his tracks. On the straight and narrows, he is far faster than you, so you best be prepared to taste defeat as he crushes you with his. Oh, and that's just stage 1, by the way, because you've got to take him on again in a flying section, and that's even harder. And number 1, GULP, Spyro 2 RIPTO'S Rage. Spyro 2 RIPTO'S Rage is such a soothingly dreamy experience, all floaty gem gathering and ambient Stuart Copeland tunes. Well, that is until you meet GULP, RIPTO'S pet pulverizer. Though GULP's name adequately describes his appetite and actually explains his sizable frame, he's anything but the lumbering oaf typical of other platformers. And if that's not bad enough, he'll then get air support from flying pterodactyls who drop bombs down to him to be used on you, as well as chickens that he uses to heal himself with. Luckily for you though, if you can best this beast, the rest of the game drops back to a more relaxing pace. Thank God. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 video game characters you didn't take seriously until they killed you. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below, because who knows, I might come back and do a commenters edition of this further down the line. And if you got the time and the patience, then why not swing by my YouTube channel? It's called Live and Let's Dice. I do loads of board game stuff, and I'm just starting a 40k inspired Fallout New Vegas live stream. It is chaotic to say the least. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. We talked today about not judging a book by its cover, and I feel like that could be something that we could definitely apply to real life. It's very easy to judge people, especially those who we might deem different to the social norm, but you know what? That's not fair to them. Because this is the thing, I tell you every single time at the end of these lists to love yourself, be kind to yourself, so why not take that and put it out there to be kind and loving towards your neighbour as well. As always, I've been Jules, you have been awesome. Never forget that. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.